It is kind of about democratize data with the rest of the company. What is the meaning of this democratizing the data? Can anybody tell me, guys? Everybody, what is the meaning of this democratizing the data? Any idea on this? Everybody? So basically, democratizing the data in very simple word, what it stands for. Do you know? So democratizing the data in very, very simple word means that whatever is the raw data that you are having, right? You guys are kind of expected to get a very good overview about that to the all the members who are there in the company. You are expected to share it with the company. You are expected to take their opinions and organize in the proper format. It also comes up in data dictionary format, right, guys? Now, after this is done, let us move ahead with scaling support and language translation for all the other problems. We will try to move ahead with that later. The hype around this generative AI and everything, it's like growing like anything. Nvidia has become the most valued company today, right? The AI favorite company for all the people. Now what is happening is that where do most of the companies actually start? How do they achieve ROI, worth ROI and everything? So legal firms. So let's say that a particular company wants to send a legal notice. How do you think we can draft it? Do you think that all the lawyers they draft it on their own? Yes, Pratusha, I can share it again, no problem. I'm sharing the document link again. What I was saying is, let us say that you have a client. Do you think that it is possible to create the document from scratch? No, absolutely, it's not possible. Right? Absolutely, it's not possible. So that is why you can take help of ChatGPT, and that can really help you to get an idea or get an overview about that. Right? Drafting, reviewing the document standards, wills, contracts, analyzing the due diligence by reviewing large volumes of documented data, right? So ChatGPT can really help you in this. First example. Next is financial services. So there is Bloomberg GPT that is coming. If you remember, we read about it, right? Bloomberg GPT. So just imagine if it comes into market, how much uh, processes it will affect. So Databricks has estimated that 80% of generative AI use cases are focusing on streamlining and saving the time, right? Analyzing, summarizing, extracting the insights, earning call transcripts and everything. Okay. Now, after this is done, everybody, after this is done, let us try to move ahead with the next part over here. Finance chatbots would be there. They would be giving you the recommendations and everything. Now, after that is done, the next part that I want all of you to understand, it is kind of revolving around the fact that how you're using that in sales team. That's the next big application that is coming up over here. That how are you using that in this industry or in this place? So basically what is happening over here is that sales team will actually get the updated information about the clients and shortlisting about the clients that who is expected to buy and in what quantity. And depending on that, you can shortlist the target audience, right? Which is like one of the very famous things that you can aim for. Now, after this is done, the next part is writing the initial drafts, following up. Basically, content creation is the core part or core domain that has been automated because of all of these things, right? One of the most important things that has been automated is content creation. Now, let us try to move ahead with the next part over here after that is done. So you can go through, we have already been through this. There is a Sixth Sense engagement platform. It's a company which is having a lot of job openings for data scientists, by the way, on LinkedIn. Okay. So this is my favorite topic because my regular work is basically revolving around this part itself, right? Automating the data engineering and data processes. So what happens is that you guys are going to take the data from some raw sources. Okay, like I'm taking the data from Bloomberg, FactSet, AlgoSeek, routers, Datascope Select. I'm taking the data from these many sources. Okay, and then what we are doing is that we are passing the data through some scripts, Python scripts, R scripts, which is kind of making sure that the data with which we are working, it's clean enough, right? Now, after this is done, the next portion over here that I want you to understand, it is revolving around that you can even generate cores, large amount of synthetic data, and everything. This is something that we have seen. I have, what you can see, made it in bold if you remember. And now after this is done, the next part over here, guys, everybody, that you need to understand, it's revolving around the GitHub Copilot. I even showed you this Copilot version in Windows. So nowadays, Copilot versions are getting very famous, very popular. Why do you think this is happening? The reason why this is happening is because of the fact that AI has become so famous over the years that it has done wonders, right? So nowadays, Copilot modes will help you in assisting and doing the required work with which you guys are expected to move ahead with, right? Now, after this is done, let us try to move ahead with the next part over here. So now after this particular section, after this particular portion is done, next section that we are expected to discuss is about democratizing the data with the rest of the company. So with the world of data, the ripest opportunities for companies to leverage Gen AI to increase the access to the non-technical consumers, right? So basically what is happening is that LLMs, large language models, they provide part for the team members to write natural prompts. So if you remember, I explained to you that earlier, what was happening was that we were expected to hire people who are very good in SQL queries to retrieve the data. Now what is happening is that we will study prompts in the next module. If you go over here, there is prompt engineering, this module, which we will start tomorrow. So we can write natural prompts nowadays, right? If you go on ChatGPT and if you write, give me a code to do this thing, it will actually help you to get that code. You don't even have to write code nowadays. So if you have the paid version, you have unlimited access to that particular portion, and that's the best part of it, right? So tech solutions like Databricks and Lakehouse IQ, they are using these particular things over here, whatnot, and encourages every employee to know SQL. So it's not that you should be able to write SQL queries or SQL codes, but at least you should be in a situation that if you're getting that query from ChatGPT, then you can do it better on that, right? Now, after that is done, everybody guys, after that is done, let's try to move ahead with the next section over here, which is scaling to customer support. So I've told you that one of the most important advantages of technology is scaling, right? So what is the difference between you buy something from the local store and Amazon? Amazon has scaled. Do you think that Amazon is earning a huge amount of profit per product? No, it's not like that. Amazon has scaled, and because of that, the profit margin that Amazon is keeping per product, it's very less. That is why the cost is less. That is why more people further buy it. So it's like an iterative chain over there. So what I want you to understand is that you can scale your customer support. Nowadays, because of generative text, what is happening is that the generative prompts can be created in such a way that when you are interacting, you will not even feel that you're interacting with a chatbot like you used to feel earlier. So all the applications, Ola, Zomato, Uber, they were having chatbots earlier. Even nowadays, they are having it. But the quality that some companies have improved because of generative AI, it's on a totally different level. Like while interacting, you will actually not feel the difference, right? So take your time, go through this, read it, guys, in your laptop. And I'm suggesting you to make a copy of this in your own laptop if possible. Thirty more seconds, guys, on this. Now, after this is done, let us try to move ahead with the next part, which is the real life use case. And you can read that the transcript is set. So let's say that there is a company, by the way, Vimo. They are using generative AI to build desk chat prototype. So let's say that you had a chat with the chatbot and you're not very happy about a particular, so people review that chat. Let's say that the rating of that chat is very bad. What happens is that the transcript of that chat is fed to LLM, large language model. So the LLM is then rephrasing everything and sending new output so that the quality of the input that we are kind of moving ahead with, it is optimized. Right? Do you read this? This is a very good real life use case because in interviews you would be definitely asked about it. All right, take your time, you go through this and let me know if I can help you with anything, guys. Now, after this is done, the next part over here is that you need to kind of get an idea or get an overview about the support translation services, because nowadays when you work in companies which are MNCs, they are dealing with multilingual domains, right? So it may happen that you get a customer care call for a person who is in Dubai and is speaking Arabic, right? So you have to train the customer care executives in such a way that they should be able to speak with them. They can translate uh, a fraction of content that they produce, right? So that is why even in translation, PPT creation, music creation, creating pre-trained models, it has become really helpful. Almost near instantaneous translations. I have made this in bold. I remember this. Universal translator. I made this in bold. So that is the next big thing over here. This is the last point. You can take 30 seconds of your time, and I am again and again telling you, please go through this unless and until you guys are clear with this application. It's not a good idea to move ahead with the next part. Now, after this is done, let us try to complete our document. And there are three important portions or three important considerations that you have to take when Gen AI is there. So what is basically the three important considerations over here? The three important considerations are that you have to supplement your tech stack. You need to have right tech stack in place to support Gen AI, meaning that if you want to work with generative AI, there is a list of sections, there is a list of topics that you need to be comfortable with in short. So for example, Python is the most basic thing. APIs, you need to work around with OpenAI APIs. Okay, you need basic knowledge of machine learning, basic knowledge of deep learning, and so on and so forth. And there's this vector databases because everything here is in vector space, right? So every sentence that you are having, every portion that you are having, it's in the form of vectors, right? Please remember this, guys. Now, after this is done, yes, Harika, you have joined late, no problem. We were just discussing, you just joined at the right time. This is the document which I have shared even in the previous session. And what we have discussed till this point is whatever is basically the points which we have already discussed in the previous session. Nothing new. Okay, it's just that there are three factors. Why are you repeating again? I was just doing a small quick recap at the starting. Okay, now after this is done, the most important point is fine tuning the models. Now the point over here is that there are two different things, creating an algorithm and creating an optimal algorithm, and there is a very big difference between these two things, to be honest with you. Why? Because creating a model is something that can be done in a really small amount of time, but creating an optimal algorithm is basically something which requires proper efforts, proper time, proper channelization of work and everything. Okay, now after this is done, the next part over here is that you have to use tools like TensorFlow, uh, even PyTorch. I would write PyTorch over here. And after that, finally, bug-facing models are good options to find you. One some more things is grid search CP. Okay, so these are some of the few options that you can use to fine-tune the predictive performance of the model. Now, the next part over here is that you kind of need to understand that how unstructured data is processed. So now what happens is that whatever is the data, textual data, it's not structured, it's an unstructured format. So the most important point is that how will you structurize the data very well, right? I feel that that is the most important point. So the thing is that there is no simple database everywhere, right? So there is no SQL database like MongoDB, which is very good option for storing unstructured data. Other than that, other than that particular option or other than that particular portion, you can also take a very good overview about Apache Spark or Apache Kafka to store the live streaming data, right? If there is some live streaming data, then you can take help or you can take advantage of all the options available over here, right? Now, after this is done, the next is to secure the right team and resources that are kind of present over here. So creating AI pilot project. What is the meaning of AI pilot or co-pilot project? So it basically means that if you want the project, if you want to do a AI project, it takes a huge amount of time unless and until you are going to take help of the advanced tools like Chat GPT and generative AI and LLMs because they can generate the textual data for you, right? Now, after this is done, take 30 seconds, go through this, and then we will move ahead with set up your time and everything. As of now, you secure right team and resources. So right team and resources means the people with proper skill sets. 30 seconds, guys, for you to read this. And I think in 10 to 15 minutes, this would be completed. Then there is just live coding session. So we will create a generative AI model. Now, after this is done, the next thing over here is that you're likely to redirect the existing employees to prototype or prove out a concept rather than hire experienced Gen AI developers, right? Because this is a brand new field, so experienced Gen AI developers really don't exist. So I have seen a lot of LinkedIn job postings. They are saying that we need 5 years Gen AI experience. I don't think there is anybody who may have more than 3 years of experience. That's also very rare. Gen AI is a pretty new concept. You can like all up to 1 year, it's okay. But if somebody is claiming that they are having more than 1 years of experience in Gen AI, it's very difficult. So what you will have to do is that the existing people in your team who are aware of machine learning, deep learning, right? You will have to direct them to upgrade the skills, which I think you guys are belonging to that crowd, right? So that is why, as I told you in the first session, that it is very important for all of you to understand this part, right? Now, after this is done, the next thing is that, in other words, some of your valuable players will need to be redirected away from the immediate revenue generating work. And that's how this particular process will move ahead. Now, the hardware cost, obviously, if you want to, today you will understand this. Today we will try to generate some images. You will actually realize what is hardware cost. So for you to move ahead with a generative AI algorithm, you need like almost best options available out there, right? So if you plan to fine tune your model, you are new to MLOps, predict and pay attention to your computer costs, right? Because you need the GPUs that are very advanced so that you can do training on them. Next is prioritize data quality. I am working in a project right now in my company, which is data checks as a service. Why data checks as a service? Because what is basically happening over here is that your quality of data is going to make the I mean is the most important is going to be the most important thing. So unless and until you are going to work with top-notch quality of data, it is not going to help you anywhere, right? So that is, I think, one of the most important things that you need to understand. So having no duplicates, having no errors, having no null values, this is going to be the key, right? This is definitely going to be the key. So 30 seconds on this, guys. Go through this. Let me know if I can help you with anything. And now after this is done, let us try to, there are two comments over here. Good evening, sir. To get the final certificate, I think course coordinators are the better people to ask this question than me, right? Now, after that, the next portion is that you have to advance the applications through AI techniques, augmented reality, virtual reality, autonomous car driving. These are the projects that can be done using advanced AI technique. So integration of AR and generative AI will give you one of the best virtual makeups to see how furniture would look in a room before purchasing. So have you observed nowadays Lenskart is using this technology? So you can get your face scanned and how that screen will look. I mean how that frame will look. That is something that you need to understand over there. So that's augmented reality with generative AI concept, right? Now, after this particular portion, after this particular concept is done, let us move ahead with the next part over here. So what is basically going to happen? Generative AI and content creation. So you won't believe nowadays teachers, lawyers, interior designers, architects, these professions are so positively impacted. The workload is reduced. I am a mentor myself. You won't believe that if there is some new content that I had to create, I was spending 3 to 4 hours before the lecture on it. Now it can be done in 1 hour with the help of generative AI, chat, GPT, and everything. So this has definitely led to increase in the quality, right? Now after this is done, let us try to move ahead with the next part. Now, after this is done, what are the ethical considerations? And this is the most important point. I think after that, we will start the live coding itself. So, bias in the data. So, generative AI can inherit the characteristics of the data that you feed. So, whatever is the training data that you are feeding, it should be balanced, like we tried to do in decision trees and other algorithms. So, if you feed biased data, it may I'm using the word may lead to optimal predict, not meet to optimal data being generated. So if you models can generate false and misleading content, posing risk in news and social media. It's not reliable. The generators or the creators of ChatGPT themselves are saying that this can make mistakes. It's not always 100% true. So it's a good additional tool, but it is not basically something on which you can rely on. Okay, so if you're feeling that okay, I can rely on this, it's a misconception. It's not like that. Next is the privacy concern. So obviously, all the generative AI models they are using your private data to be trained, right? Which obviously imposes a very big threat, very big threat. Generative AI can create content which is similar to existing works, raising issue of plagiarism and copyrights. In a lot of research field, this has happened already. Now, after this is done, the next part or the next portion over here, it is basically revolving around a section or it is basically revolving around a part of accountability. So the harmful outputs, they can lead to complicating legal and ethical accountability as well, right? So take a minute, go through this, and then there is one more thing. Potential biases in generative AI, ethical considerations we have discussed. Take 30 seconds to read it. And then we will move ahead with the next part. Now, after this is done, the next part over here is potential biases. So training data bias is something that you need to understand that depending on race, gender, socioeconomic status, and more factors, political considerations, the data that gets generated, it may have some biases in it, right? So that's training data bias. Next is confirmation bias. So they might have and reinforce existing bias in the data, making it difficult to identify and correct them. And algorithmic bias, the bias that the algorithm is introducing on its own, that comes under algorithmic bias. Then there is user interaction, and after that there is something called as deployment context. So the bias that gets added because of training data, right? The bias that gets added because of confirmation bias that the model itself introduces. And the next part over here is that the bias that gets added because of the assumptions of the algorithm. These are the potential biases. So if there is a call that comes up in an interview, then you can get an idea about that. 30 seconds, guys, read this. Again, this is again a theoretical part. You will have to go through this. Now, after this is done, the next two things that are kind of, can you please share the document again? Yes, I can. Definitely. Yes. So now after this is done, the next is about the user interaction. So when the generative AI model is interacting with the users, end users, because of the way in which prompts are being given, it can introduce some bias. And last is deployment context, which means that the environment in which it is deployed, right, that can create some biases. So that's another thing, right? So take your time, no problem, Khadija. Take your time, go through this, and let me know if I can help you with anything. And now, after this is done, the next and the last part over here is the future of generative AI, enhanced creativity, content creation, which I have been telling from the first minute. AI generated music, AI generated PPT, content, arts, music, stories, personalized advertising and marketing copy, drug discovery, medical imaging, right? Customer service, automated data analysis. There are going to be systems in which what you will basically do is that just you will pass the data and it will give you all the trend and all the pattern that is available. Okay. Now, after that is done, education systems, the way in which content creation, see, I was telling about this part itself. Generating educational content, generating coding files, generating theoretical concepts, generating diagrams that can better explain the scenario as a whole, right? AI assisted software coding and debugging. If you go on Google Colab, nowadays you can just tell what you need to do and it will help you to code that thing. And after that, there is technology and development, which is coming at the end, in which what you are doing is that you are having software development and design that comes up over here. Now, after this is done, send me the file. Let me see document. And emerging applications and research areas is again mentioned personalized content, tailored media, news, social media feeds, interactive AI, generative designs, creating synthetic data. And the challenges is the ethical use, regulation policy, bias and fairness. So there should be a measure that is able to distinguish between AI generated data and actual data. without which it's not a good idea to move ahead with, right? Now, after this is done, let us try to move ahead. Take a minute for this. Read the document. If you have any questions, let me know about that. And after this is done, let us take a small break of 10 minutes and we will resume at 18:07 with the live coding session for CAN. Okay, 10 minutes break, everybody. Thank you. So guys, let us get started with the live coding session. And today what we are going to do is that we are going to have the data get generated over here. Okay. So there is a very famous, first of all, let us get started. Let's open up Jupyter Notebook. Okay, documents, Blackbucks, generative AI, coding files. And here is session 6 file. Right. Now, what is basically happening over here is uh, link will be given, attendance link will be given to you in the last few minutes. Okay, importing important libraries. So you have import numpy as np, import pandas as pd, then from tensorflow.keras.datasets import mnist. I will show you what is this mnist dataset. Just give me a minute. From tensorflow.keras.models import sequential source dot layers import tense flatten reshape convolutional 2D. If you are aware of convolutional 2D layer, then convolutional 2D transpose, then there is leaky ReLU, and then there is dropout. Okay, so let's import this in a separate. After that is done, import matplotlib.pyplot as plt, percentage matplotlib inline, import warnings and warnings dot filter warnings ignore. So these are the things that you need to import. So this MNIST, let me explain you line by line what is each line used for. So import numpy as NP. It is for numerical processing, initialization of the matrices and everything. Pandas is for filtering the data, pre-processing the data. Okay. Next thing over here is link is not opening. Which link is not opening? So then after that, there is this MNIST. What is this MNIST? It is digit classification dataset. So in this MNIST dataset, there are different images such that each image represents a digit. So loading the MNIST dataset, and here we have extreme, comma, underscore, comma, underscore, comma, underscore is equal to MNIST dot load underscore data. Then you have normalize to the range -1 to 1. X train is equal to X train minus 127.5 divided by 127.5. How is 127.5 number coming? Can anybody tell me, guys? What might be the logic through which I'm getting this number 175 exactly? Dot expand underscore tens extreme is equal to 1, and after that we have print the shape of the data, which is print x underscore train dot shape. So how is this number? There are 60,000 images. Okay, how are we getting extreme endings 1 axis equal to -1? My bad. So now what is the meaning of 127.5? Let me explain this to you. So what is basically happening over here is that every image in Python, let's say that this is an image in Python, colorful image in Python. So this image is comprised of 3 vectors. First vector, second vector, third vector. Right? First, second, and third vector over here. First vector is red colored vector, second is green colored vector, and third is blue. Absolutely correct, Funny. Yes. So every color coding, red colored vector, green colored vector, blue colored vector, it is on a scale of 0 to 255. So what is the middle point of 255? 255 divided by 2, which is equal to 127.5. So since we want to make it centered at 0 with -1 and 1 as the extreme endpoints, that is why we are having this part. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? So now after this is done, let us try to move ahead with the next part. So you guys type this in your laptop. Everybody guys type this in your laptop. So guys, can I move ahead now? Let's try to create the discriminator, generator discriminator. Everybody. So creating the discriminator after this. So define discriminator. So input shape is equal to 28 comma 28 comma 1, and after that let's have a sequential model, right? Then let's add the 2D convolutional layer model dot add convolutional 2D layer, in which there are 64 parameters. The kernel is of 3 comma 3 size, stride is equal to 2 comma 2, padding is equal to seam, and input underscore shape is equal to in underscore shape, right? After that is done, model dot add leaky relu alpha is equal to 0.2. So alpha is that parameter of leaky relu. After that, let's add model dot dropout. So dropout is done to handle exploding gradient problem and overfitting problem. Dropout 0.4, model dot add then model dot add again convolutional 2D. Just copy this part. Here you will have 64 3 comma 3, stride is same, padding is same, and you don't need to give input is equal to in underscore shape. Again, these two things, then model dot add Latin, model dot add dense with the activation are equal to sigmoid. And after that, you have compiling the model. Here we have just discussed the structure. After that, we would be having compile the model Adam optimizer OPT is equal to Adam learning rate is equal to 0. Let's say 0002 beta underscore 1 is equal to 0.5. You should know all of these things from the deep learning knowledge, what is Adam optimizer and everything, and then model dot compile loss is equal to binary cross entropy optimizer is equal to CPT, comma matrix is equal to accuracy. Then you have return model. So this is something that all of you guys need to pay attention to. This is how I'm creating a discriminator. So there are two convolutional layers, right? Two leaky relu layers, two dropout layers, and then we will move on. Please explain once about the code So Shravani, for understanding this code, what you need to do is that if you are aware of GAN architecture, which we have discussed. So in generative adversarial neural network, there is a generator, there is a discriminator. Okay, these are the two things that you need to first understand. Generator is responsible for what you can say generating the data, synthetic data. Discriminator is responsible for the other part, right? Now, what is basically happening over here is that we are creating discriminator first. You can also create generator first if you want to. What is the task or what is the role of discriminator? The role of discriminator is that it is trying to find a difference between synthetic data, okay, and the second one that is available is actual data, right? Now, after this is done, what we are doing over here is we are creating a sequential model, right? We are basically creating a sequential model in first line. Then we are adding convolutional 2D layer in, because here we are working with image data. After that, we have leaky ReLU as the activation function. After that, we are having dropout probability as 0.4. Again, convolutional layer, leaky ReLU dropout. And then you are flattening so that you can have a flattened layer. And then there is a final activation function. You may not understand this totally if you do not know deep learning, if you do not know CNN architecture. So for you to understand this code, you should have a good knowledge about convolutional neural networks first. Right? Take your time to write this, guys. Now, after this is done, the next part over here is creating the discriminator summary, for which discriminator is equal to define discriminator. Okay. So here you will get summary of the discriminator that you are expected to work at. What is this part? Where we keyword argument not understood stride, right? Strides S is missing. Activation is equal to sigma. Adam, A. Write this in your laptop, guys. One more thing from TensorFlow.keras.optimizer import Adam. This one line we were missing. Okay. Take your time to write this now, guys. Now, after this is done, let's create the generator. The digits data having 10 outputs in the last layer, you provided only one output because I need the hard code part, right? Because I need only one output. No, I just need one output. That's why I provided one. Now, after this is done, the next is define generator, right? Defining the generator. So model is equal to sequential. Let's add model.dense, and over here it's dense of 128 by 7 by 7, and activation is equal to ReLU, and over here we have latent dimension. Next, after that is model dot add reshape 7,7,128. Model dot add convolutional 2D layer with transpose of 128, 4, 4, with stripes is equal to 2, 2, padding is equal to 3. Let's add redo again, drop out again, and after that you have model dot add convolutional 2D layer with one. The kernel size is 7 comma 7. You can also choose 5 comma 5 if you want to. And activation is equal to 10h comma padding is equal to C. Right? Return the model. Latent underscore time is equal to 100. So this is going to give you this part, right? Take your time to create the generator part. And now we would be creating GAN after this. Now, after this is done, let us try to define GAN after this. Define the GAN model. Okay, so define GAN, and over here it is generator discriminator. Then you have make the discriminator weights non-trainable. So discriminator dot trainable is equal to false. Model is equal to sequential. Model dot add generator. Model dot add discriminator. So generator will generate the data. Discriminator will try to distinguish between real data and synthetic data. And then you will have compile the model. OPT is again equal to Adam, LR is equal to 0.0002, comma beta underscore 1 is equal to 0.5. Model dot compile loss is equal to binary cross intro, comma optimizer is equal to GPT. Return model. And you have create GAN. GAN underscore model is equal to define GAN. Write this, guys. So now after this is done, you guys can observe that I have created the generator, then discriminator. Discriminator will have the compilation, which will give you binary cross entropy. And this is how the model is created. Now, after this is done, the most important part is generating real data and generating fake data and summarizing all of the things. So there is a very big block that we have to write now. So after this is done, the main part over here is training the GAN, right? Train the generative adversarial neural network. Def train underscore GAN, GAN comma generator comma discriminator comma data set comma latent time comma and epochs. It is computationally very expensive, so I am having 2 epochs as of now. Later on, you can increase it if you want to. And n underscore batches is equal to 256. Right? Now, after this is done, what we need to do is that half underscore batch, it is equal to int of n batch divided by 2 for I in range n underscore epochs for g in range of int of data sets dot shape 0 because that's the number of rows divided by n underscore batch. That many number of data points would be there in each part, right? Now, batch. Okay. Now, after this is done, that is what I was calculating in batch. After this is done, get randomly selected data, but randomly selected real data samples. IDX is the index, which is np dot random dot randint starting from 0 going till data set dot shape square bracket 0, and after that its size is half underscore batch. X real is equal to data set square bracket IDX. Y real is equal to np dot ones half underscore batch comma 1. Now you have generate. So we are allocating 1 to real data. Now generating fake samples. X underscore fake is equal to generate fake samples. Okay, in which you will have generator latent time and half batch. After that is done, y underscore fake is equal to np dot zeros because fake data is being given with zeros. After that, you have to update the discriminator. T loss real is equal to discriminator dot train on batch x real comma y real. Now, after this is done, the loss of fake part x fake comma y fake. Okay, then you have repair points in latent space as input for generator. Xscan is equal to generate latent points latent underscore time, comma, and underscore batch. Y underscore gan, it is basically equal to np dot ones n underscore batch, okay, comma 1, and then you update the generator via discriminator error. And this is how is it going to happen? G underscore loss is equal to gan dot train on batch x gan comma y gan. And after this is done, next thing over here is print epoch I plus 1 comma d underscore loss underscore real is equal to d underscore loss underscore real colon 0.3f comma d underscore loss underscore fake is equal to d loss fake colon 0.3f. Okay. And after this is done, g underscore loss is equal to g underscore loss. And if I plus 1 percentage 10 double equal to 0, summarize underscore performance I comma generator comma discriminator comma dataset comma latent underscore time. Right. So this is the big portion that we need to take into consideration. And after that, we are having def generate latent points. So here we have latent time, comma, n underscore samples. Okay. And what is going to happen? That x underscore input, it is equal to np dot random dot randint and n latent dimension multiplied by n underscore samples, right? And after this is done, x underscore input is equal to x underscore input dot reshape